Welcome everyone to Achenti's Workshops to Express Creativity, Engaging Canadian Seniors, a project made possible through the financial support of Employment and Social Development Canada as part of the New Horizons Seniors Program. My name is Lecha Canton and I'm Achenti's founding editor-in-chief. Today we are pleased to present Workshop 8, Finding the Funny, How to Mine Your Life for Laughs with Carolyn Bennett. Our workshop leader, Carolyn Bennett, cut her teeth performing at the Comedy Nest in Montreal, Just for Laughs and Yuk Yuks. Her selected TV credits include This Hour Has 22 Minutes, CBC Comics, and Chili Beach. She published a first novel titled Please Stand By in 2019 with Vancouver's Now or Never Publishing. Carolyn Bennett co-founded and performs at Hirut Hoot, a monthly stand-up showcase in Toronto at Hirut Fine Ethiopian Cuisine. Carolyn is also the founder of the Bright Lit Big City Literary Reading Series in Toronto. Welcome, Carolyn. The microphone is yours. We're really excited for your workshop.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending and tuning in from your, I'm sure you all have busy schedules, and this is really exciting for me. I'm not incredibly used to talking into the camera, so if I look down a bit, I just want to make sure that, okay, I'm still here. There I am. Thanks. So thanks for having me. Come stai? That's the extent of my Italian, but I'm just happy to be here. Finding the funny, mining your life for laughs. I was saying earlier, if we can't laugh right now, we are in big trouble. It is good for our health. It's good for society. We need to laugh no matter what. So don't let anybody tell you that, you can't laugh or you can't have fun. It is vital. It's why we're alive. We're here to enjoy life. We're here to enjoy the company of others, and using humor certainly helps with that. It's a way of life, as I say in my presentation. So a little bit about me. I guess we can go to the next slide. Or you can just look at my big face. We can do that too. I started doing stand-up. I'm originally from Montreal, and I do a whole bit about that in my act. But yeah, so I was born and raised in Montreal. I'll do my bit. I'll do my joke. I say I never spoke French, although I looked like I did. Because if somebody would ask me something in French, I'd just do this. And if I got stuck, I'd throw in a la, 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 la. La, la. Pretty impressive, eh? Well, it got me a job teaching French immersion out west. So that is one of my intro jokes to my act. And that kind of sums up my life in Montreal. My parents were Anglophones from Toronto. My dad worked for Air Canada. My mother worked at St. Mary's Hospital. And we grew up Anglophone. And I came from a big family. And humor is one way to get attention. So I was the fifth of 6 kids. So I realized that if I kind of clowned around and joked around, maybe somebody would notice me. Like, hey, there's another mouth to feed over here. It's the biggest one of all. So humor can be a natural response to stress, or just to, like I said, a way of life. Or, you can acquire it, and it is a learned skill. It's a muscle that you have to exercise too. So when I was a student at Concordia, I did communications at Concordia, the Comedy Nest. I don't know if anyone's been to the Comedy Nest. I don't know if you remember it. It used to be on Bishop Street, and Ernie Butler ran the club. So this was back in like the mid 80s. my friend and I just thought, I want to try stand-up comedy. Now, why stand-up comedy? Because I was a writer and I've always been a writer. I'm a professional writer. I work for the Toronto Star. I work for Canadian Immigrant Magazine, Now Magazine. I've had a career in Toronto. So writing was always a thing with me. But I was also, I just had this goofy way about me, and I was just very expressive. And the big thing that gave me such joy was making the kids in the schoolyard laugh. I don't know, it was just something about making people laugh that just made me feel good too. And it was a way to break the ice. So when the comedy nest opened, and they had an amateur night, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And I did the amateur nights for a while, and I graduated to the pro status. Writing jokes, coming up with bits, coming up with anecdotes was just my response to living. It just made living easier for me. Fast forward, moved to Toronto. Boo! Anyway, I had to move to Toronto, and had a career as a stand-up comic for a while. I didn't like the road. Very sexist. I can get into those stories. But I eventually started writing for television, and started writing television comedy, and worked in all the award shows and this and that. And so yeah, I had a wonderful career. When I hit my mid-40s, the gigs were not coming in like they used to, because that's the thing about showbiz. Just when you're peaking, there's a whole other generation coming up. So what do you mean I'm not the hottest next big thing at 45? Come on. And the business isn't always kind to women. So I thought, how can I translate what I've done in showbiz and on TV? How can I translate that? So what was the most natural thing for a comedian to do was get into government. So I wrote for the Premier of Ontario. I worked for the Cabinet Office in Ontario, and I worked for the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody in government. I answered an ad. I beat out like 500 people, over 500, they told me, for the job. And it was because I had the humor background. Go figure, Oh, they could use all the laughs they can get in Ontario. So today, these days, I'm semi-retired. I moved to Brockville, Ontario, which is in between Toronto and Montreal. The pandemic just threw a wrench into my life. And after 24 years, I was rent-evicted from my apartment. I don't know if anyone lives in Toronto. I pity you, but we were able to buy a house, et cetera, et cetera. I wrote about it for the Toronto Star. I wrote about 5 articles about Brockville, because the transition to this smaller town has been, it's been a little rough. But what did I do? I found the humor in the situation, because that was a way to cope. So that's me in a nutshell. And this workshop is for you. I want to learn about you. We're going to do some exercises together. And I just want to know if any of you use humor to cope in life, or if you've ever done any humorous writing. The floor is open. So do we have that gallery view? Okay, so please feel free to jump in, anyone. I just want to know about you and your experience. Don't be shy. Humor. No fear. No fear.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Okay.
You've got the camera on. You go first.
Linda, then
me. Okay.
Linda. Okay.
Yeah. So definitely, I've always used humor to cope, and like you, I'm the youngest of 7, so I totally get it. I moved from Toronto to St. Albert, Alberta, and out here I decided to try and take a crack at writing. So for the past 10 years or so, like ever since I moved here, I've been trying. So I write a lot of short stories about myself as a child, trying to figure out my world and where I fit in, and it's all comedy. I've just entered a play into the Fringe Festival, so hopefully I get in. And my goal is to do a one-woman show, because everybody that I share these anecdotes and stories with tell me they can relate to what I'm saying. They love laughing. So I want to be able to pull from everything that I've been working on, and hopefully this will help me figure out how to do that.
All right, thank you so much, Linda.
Kate?
Hi, guys. Oh, sorry. Who should speak? Do you want to go ahead?
No,
Kate.
Kate, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Kate, go
So
ahead.
I'm Kate. It's really nice to meet all of you. I'm sorry that my camera is not working. I used humor a lot. I just had a play in Toronto and Montreal called A Little Bit Pregnant. And it was a great feeling having my words make people laugh and then bring them to tears and then bring them back to laughing again. So I really appreciate that. My dad was a stand-up comedian for a while, and then he went into film. And so we grew up with always laughing amidst the screaming that we used to communicate. I'm from Toronto, but I don't admit that very much because I live in Montreal now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm working on a new play right now called Ain't No Dummy. And it features a drag queen and her puppet, and it's a murder mystery heist. So I've applied for Fringe Montreal, and I'm also crossing my fingers that I get in.
This is amazing. Great. Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I've been in education all my life, and I think if you want to have fun in education, you've got to have a sense of humor. Especially, I was working with some of the toughest kids in the school, and I think I enjoyed it so much because I could see the humor in it, and of course they participated, and it really opens all kinds of doors. You know, the minute they see that you have a sense of humor and that you can, you know, back and forth, then you've got it. You've got it, especially with the tough kids, because they usually have a fantastic sense of humor.
Yep.
So
yeah, because it's a coping mechanism too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So you were a teacher?
Well, I was a teacher, then an administrator, then at the school board. I did the whole gamut. But yes, of course, teaching was my favorite.
Yeah.
Teaching was definitely my favorite part of my career.
Yep. You have your built-in audience.
Oh yeah, but because of the kids, I mean, you know, it's yeah, I could tell you some of the jokes, but I don't want you to use them in your show. I might be using them.
Thank you, Anna. Just if anyone else wants to share briefly, then we'll move on.
I
Just
can go.
wanted to mention that some people might not be able to speak, so they could always
That's
put
okay.
in the chat.
In the chat, yeah.
So it's Eloise, and as soon as you introduced yourself, I thought of my father, and
I have that effect on people.
His thing was, life is real and life is earnest. So humor was never in our family. And today I thought, gee, this is great. I'm so happy to be around humor. So thank you.
You're welcome. No, it's life affirming humor.
I can relate to what Anna was saying about working with kids. I have a background in writing, and I'm also a poet. I'm an arts educator, so I work with kids of all ages. And I have a bit in my set about transitioning from spoken word poetry to comedy so I can diversify my income. And so this is definitely something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Right now, I'm very much on the queer and trans LGBTQ plus scenes because they feel a little bit more doable to like work my way in, but it would be great to expand beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. It can, are you looking to do stand-up? Are you looking to?
Definitely. I've got a couple of gigs under my belt already, which feel like, you know, feel great. But for sure, I'd like to do this a little bit more often, more seriously.
Fantastic.
Well, I'm a writer, and my best friend thinks I'm hilarious, as do my adult children, but my partner not so much.
Boo.
Because you make fun of him? I don't know.
Anybody else? If you're just listening, that's fine too.
I'm pretty curious about stand-up comedy because I'm Marta. I come from Italy and I'm in Italy right now, and stand-up comedy here is not very popular as in your country, but I've always been really, interested in it. And I also watch all the stand-up special stuff I can find online on Netflix and whatever. And I do agree with you all when you say that humor is used to cope, because I use that to do that. And it kind of helped me with work environments to, maybe you're the new one and you have just to be funny and hide for as long as possible the bad person that you are. So you say, Madam, joking, you're saying really very bad, say something very, very bad. And so, but it's just a joke. Of course, it's not. But yeah, it is. So that's it.
Thanks, Marta. That's something we can touch on as far as boundaries and humor. I'll touch on it right now. I mean, it really comes down to the individual and the situation, and what's appropriate in that situation. If you're joking with close friends, like, anything goes. In work environments, it is so important to have a sense of humor, but we have to be careful about overstepping boundaries. It's always okay to laugh at ourselves. It's not always okay to laugh at others. There are circumstances. It's called satire. It's another form of humor, but it's a skill that you really have to hone. But joking, I mean, that's how people get close. That's how you break down barriers, is you share humor. Humor and food, it makes the world go around. So thank you for that. And I'm just going to touch on something that a couple of people mentioned, doing fringe shows. I did a fringe show in 2018 in Kingston. I wanted to get outside of Toronto. And the one thing the fringe shows do, and the solo shows do, is it also gives you permission to use humor in a way that's deeper. The best stand-up comics can get very deep, but the job in a club of a stand-up comic is really just to produce those laughs, to make sure the audience is laughing. Fringe shows, you have more leeway to act, to be more creative in movement and subject matter, and to get more serious. So, dramedy. So fringe shows have more flexibility. But why don't we go to the first exercise I want us to do? Next slide, please. And it's just easy. It's just a way to warm up. It's just a very easy improv exercise. Shopping list. I'm going to start us off. I'm going to say I went to the store and I bought blank. The next person has to pick up on it and say, I went to the store, I bought blank and blank. We're adding to the shopping list. This exercise is about listening to each other and about kind of like just off the top of your head coming up with something. So we'll go around until we start bursting into tears because we can't remember what we said, okay? So why don't we do that? And just jump in to add to the shopping list, and we'll make sure everybody gets a chance. I'm going to start us off. I went to the store and I bought bananas.
I went to the store and I bought bananas and eggs.
I went to the store and bought banana and eggs and Q-tips.
I went to the store and bought banana, eggs, Q-tips, and Epsom salts.
I went to the store and bought bananas, eggs, Q-tips, Epsom salts, and diapers.
I went to the store and bought bananas, eggs, Epsom salt, diapers, and condoms.
Ooh.
You missed one. You missed one.
I know, I can't remember.
It's okay, but we're all going to remember the last one easily.
I went to the store and I bought bananas, eggs, Q-tips, Epsom salts, diapers, and condoms. And water.
That's quite the party we're having. Anybody else?
I went to the store and bought bananas, eggs, Q-tips, Epsom salt, diapers, condoms, water, and a slip and slide mat.
Are you writing these down?
Yes. I'm 52, okay?
I know. This is all about, okay, we'll end it there. That was fun. That was fun. Everybody was pretty rapid fire. That's good. The idea is if we were in a group, we'd be doing this around a circle and we wouldn't be looking at lists. We'd have to remember all this, but that's okay. So the next exercise is story swap. Okay, so story swap. I will start us off. I'm going to start a story, and then I'm gonna clap. I'm gonna clap my hand. I want somebody to pick up on what I'm saying, so that it's kind of a natural flow. Keep going until I clap, and the next person, whoever you are, is going to jump in and expand on what that person is saying. So we're going to build a story together. Okay, do we think we understand this? Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'll start us off. It's not as easy as it looks. Yesterday I was walking along the water and I saw this man, and he was holding a bird. I think it was a parrot. And he was looking towards the water. It was the St. Lawrence, and he was holding this parrot. And the parrot turned to him and started talking to him. And the parrot said,
I hope you don't expect me to jump in, because I'm not going. If you want to jump in, that's fine. I'll stay on your shoulder, but I'm not going there alone. So.
Who's next?
Oh.
So we pick up on what Anna just said. Parrot's not going in alone.
You must come in with me. You should. I think after all these years, I've served you as my master. Now you should obey me, because I'm going to take command over you, and so you need to jump in water together with me, because it would be so unfair of you from your part if you just threw me like rubbish, like trash. You're not supposed to do so. It's not fair.
Next person.
And then a medieval knight appeared wearing a shield and a sword and a helmet on a horse, on a white horse. And he waved his sword and he cut off the parrot's head.
Oh.
And went down the river on a boat that was there. And he just jumped on this boat and sailed across the St. Lawrence into Longueuil. And there he met another knight. It was a black
next person.
A white knight.
Next person. Longueuil, pick up on it.
The man was very desperately sad that his parrot had its head decapitated, and he decided that he was going to jump in the water after all. Unfortunately, he wasn't like a parrot, so he had to take off of his clothes. While he was doing so, the police came and said
Hey, look, qu'est-ce qui se passe?
And the man said, my French is terrible, sir. Could you please speak in English? What are you trying to say? I'm drowning here. Actually, I don't want to drown anymore. Can you please can you please help me out of the water? I'm pretty cold. And the cop said, je comprends pas anglais parce que je suis francophone et parler en français dans Quebec and scene. Okay, all right. So that was fun. It's interesting to do it online, but that's fun. So what that did was kind of loosen us up, you know, and loosen up our brains a little bit and get us working as a group. And that is really good to break down any barriers. Can I have the next slide, please? That was fun.
You're tired.
This poor guy and his parrot. Okay. Let's do the threesome here. Name 3 people or things that make you laugh in your life. So I can go first. My husband makes me laugh. He is the most quiet. I can barely hear him at times. He's so quiet. But when he does speak, and believe me, it's not often because I do a lot of the speaking. When he does speak, he'll say things that are so off the wall that I'll just start howling. And he likes to dance every night. You got to understand, this guy's a Norwegian Lutheran. They're the most repressed people in the world. But for some reason, at night before bed, he likes to do a little jitterbug. I don't know what that says about our sex life, if that is a substitute, but anyway, that's fine. He makes me laugh. Situations, just going into any store, seeing those automated cash machines, you know, people trying to scan their items. I find that hilarious. Just so many people just either get frustrated with the technology or they steal, you know. But so those situations make me laugh. And my boss, I'm working at the Brockville Arts Center now, and we're coming up with shows and everything. My boss, who's been there for 20 years, he's very quick. He's got a very good sense of humor. And he really has made it a pleasure to be in the office. So those are the 2 people in one situation that make me laugh just off the top of my head. So who's next?
One of the situations that makes me laugh is to be in the classroom with the students, especially the ones under 10, because they have no concept of what a filter is. And I think sort of one of the higher ranking comments I've gotten, I was working as a tutor and one of the kids looked me in the eyes and was like, is this what you thought you'd be doing with the rest of your life? And I was just like slain. My rabbit makes me laugh because she's just incapable of any kind of forethought or malice. And so she'll like walk into things or fall off things. And it's a little bit mean, but there's something about a creature that doesn't really know what it's doing, that has no capacity for complex thought. That's just funny. And my brothers make me laugh. They have this way of commenting in real time, really quickly on movies or in conversations. And they're usually just like one-liners. And sometimes they riff off one another. And it's difficult to recreate or to explain, but they're really funny.
Yep. In the moment. Yep. And pets, a huge source of amusement and comfort. Yep. Thank you so much.
My grandmother makes me laugh. Well, she made me laugh. We were once driving and we saw this wedding outside and I was like, oh, look, a normal day for us is their special day. And my grandmother rolled down the window of the car and yelled out, fools, you bloody fools. And my father always made me laugh. He once pretended that he spoke French. I went to a French school in Toronto and he pretended that he spoke French. And the teacher the next day was like, I don't know why you're failing, Kate. Your father's fluent. And he basically did what you do, which is like, oh, mais oui, qu'est-ce qu'on fait là?
Yeah.
And then my 12-year-old kid makes me laugh because she has just got this wicked sense of humor. And when she's not being like angry at the world for being a 12-year-old, she just cracks me up.
Excellent. Yep. Excellent.
Babies make me laugh. Some of the babies and some of their faces, they really crack me up. Some of the commercials are they really make me laugh. And as far as people, well, of course, my students cracked me up a lot. My father had a great sense of humor, you know, and whatever would happen, one of his sayings was, well, that kind of stuff only happens to the living. The dead don't have that problem. And that was his standard line for anything that was happening in our life that wasn't pleasant, you know?
Yep.
So that was supposed to console us.
Okay.
One thing
go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, go
So
ahead.
one situation that makes me laugh is when I make mistakes while reading. So I just start laughing. At a certain point, I'm amused. At a certain point, I cannot tell the border between being amused or being just nervous. But in general, reading mistakes make me laugh because sometimes they are even funny anagrams, involuntary anagrams of phrases, of whole sentences, and one should take note of them. And the second situation that actually makes me laugh is when I'm with my university colleagues, and most of the time we are basically telling each other dead jokes. We feel like stupids. We feel like, but we are having fun, and sometimes we even mock with each other because we come from different parts of Italy, and we mock our accent. We do impressions and stuff like that. And the third situation that makes me laugh is whenever one of my cats something weird, just like staring at a door and just scream at it, or when they have no clue where to poop in the litter, and they do stuff like, for example, eating the sand from it, or pooping in in their food instead of the litter. They are pretty strange. They look crazy too.
Thank you so much, Carmen. You hit on something really important, that you're able to laugh at yourself. That is so important because sometimes life can be difficult. Sometimes, you know, we're not always feeling our best, or, you know, we might feel isolated, or, you know, under the weather or whatnot. So being able to get ourselves out of a negative mindset, because it's easy to go into it, and to just kind of stand back and to look at the, you know, the absurdity of it, or just to kind of turn it around. And humor is a way to just like shift your perspective on situations that, especially when it comes to yourself, you know, like physical aches or pains. I will come to it. I've got something in the slides later on. We'll come to that later. So that's a really good observation. I did want to just check in with Eloise, if you're there. I'm just wondering about the 3 things that make you laugh in your life, if you're there.
I'm sort of thinking about that too. I am here. I have 2 good friends that make me laugh. One is a writer, and she's like an aged hippie, but comes from the Catskills of New York. And so her New York humor I love. And another friend, Derek, he's a psychiatrist by trade, and he's awfully funny. So we exchange emails a lot, and it's all in good fun. It's all fun. Thank you.
Yep.
May
Good.
I just add something to the conversation?
Yep.
Because it's part of what I struggle with when doing exercises like this, and something I want to overcome so that I can do the stand-up. Sometimes hiding behind when you're writing, I don't have to worry about my anxiety. I'm free. I can write whatever I want. But then I freeze in moments, and I have answers in my head, but then I start blacking out. But I do know that from just trying to understand comedy more is that surprise is what makes us laugh, the unexpected.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so I have 2 points, Sarah. So that I was just thinking, I just went to a grade school reunion in Toronto. I hadn't seen anyone for 40 years. And there was a guy telling us that he's a bus driver and he struggles with hemorrhoids, and went into detail about this huge hemorrhoid. And it was, I don't even want to go into it, but what
That makes me laugh.
so
That's hilarious.
one of the guys on his side, like, he went into details, like, my wife had to, it was
Well,
coming out of my butt cheeks. And
Was
my
he
wife had to-
was he serious the whole time?
Oh yeah, he
Yeah.
was serious the whole time. And my other friend on the other side is going, no more stories about hemorrhoids. And then all of a sudden, and this is the unexpected thing, this friend of mine, Dom, who's like very old school, it's like talking to a compadre from like that's 80 years old. And he's not in, like, you wouldn't expect him to come out with something like this. And he said, so my Roberto was soaking in some kind of oil and turmeric to get the swelling to go down. And Dom just turns and says, you know what the active ingredient in turmeric is? It's curcumin. And I just burst out laughing because I'm like, first of all, it sounded like a commercial, but I did not expect some type of medical, homeopathic information coming out of Dom.
Yep. Well, he probably did that to make himself feel at ease, because it was
you're right.
Because it was such an awkward situation.
Yes.
That this person would go on at great lengths about their hemorrhoids. I guess they felt very comfortable discussing this, or some people just don't have the mechanism to read other people and to see their reactions. So if you're kind of almost held hostage in a situation like that, it's interesting to see how people would respond. And the way your friend responded, was to make himself feel comfortable. But I would find it funny too, because it does sound like a commercial. It really does. I don't know if he meant to be funny when he said that.
No, he didn't, and that's what made it funny.
So that's why, as a humorist, as somebody who's looking through the world with in a humorous lens, you were able to pick up on that and just turn around and think, am I in a commercial? Like, where am I? So good on you for finding the funny in like a very, very humorous situation. Like, and then we got to be careful. We have to be able to read people in these situations, because this man who is going on about his hemorrhoids, he was maybe feeling overwhelmed, and that's the best he could bring. So we have to be respectful, which your friend was doing. But as a humorist, you can stand back, look at the situation, find the absurdity and humor in it, and especially like a grade school reunion, right there, that's fodder for comedy. And take what you've witnessed and use it in your own material, or have it as a springboard for something you want to do. Not necessarily a situation, but that can inspire other thoughts. I see a hand up, and it's Darlene.
Hi. So Sina's assisted suicide, and before the fatal dose is administered, the woman has all her friends around her, of course, very, very somber mood. And the physician passes her a box of chocolates and asks her if she would like one. And the woman who's about to die says, "Oh, why not? It won't affect my weight." And this was actually a true story. My friend told me, and of course everyone cracked up, and it was the element of surprise. But the it's a true thing that people who are offered assisted suicide are offered a chocolate, because apparently the first needle is one to relax, and it kind of produces a metallic unpleasant flavor in the mouth. And anyway, I thought it was brilliant on the part of part of the soon to be deceased to have all her friends cracking up.
Thank you, Darlene. Thank you for sharing that story, because that was extremely generous of your friend to crack a joke in such a situation. Again, like humor can just be icebreaker, and let's just put it all out on the table and join in together and laugh. And a situation, I mean, I have jokes about many situations, that being one of them. Not that I've ever been a party or a witness to it, but that reminds me of an old Woody Allen joke. Woody Allen, the people are in the restaurant and they're eating some soup, and the one woman saying, "Oh my God, this soup is terrible," and the other one says, "Yes, in such some small portions." You know, sort of a similar thing. It's, "Oh, that's not going to affect my weight." I mean, that is hilarious, and a gift to the people who were there. So talk about coping at life's most profound moments. Some of my favorite fiction, well, for me, there's got to be an element of humor in it. Especially for me personally, I love satire. Martin Amis, I've been reading a lot of Martin Amis's stuff since he passed away. Just not only is it excellent writing and thinking, but the levels of humor are like startling to me. They are so brilliant, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. So that was really good. Anyone else? I'm just looking at the time.
I like the comic Herman.
Oh yeah. Oh, the comic strip. Yep. Yep.
I mean, I can't look at any one picture or any one joke and not crack up. He really gets to me. He doesn't get to everybody, because one of my friends like says, "What's so funny?" But to me, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. His sense of humor.
Yep. Comedy, you know, they say it's subjective. You know, you'll like one thing, another person will like another thing. But you know, to each his own. And a lot of the best comedy, it's an acquired taste too. It's an acquired taste. Like, there may have been a time that I would think, "Oh, Herman, you know, that's not cool. That's not cool." But now that I've lived long enough, and I can look at it now and think, yeah, that's really humorous. That's really funny. I mean, there's humor. I mean, there's varying degrees of funny, right? There's gentle humor. There's, you know, biting satire. There's stuff in between. So, you know, to have a wide variety of tastes, I think, is the best thing in life, is to appreciate a wide variety of humor and foods and cultures, everything. So why don't we go to the next slide? See where we're at. Find the humor in the everyday. This is what we're doing. Okay, so you're sharpening your observational skills. You got to notice what's going on outside yourself. So that's another great thing about humor. It takes you outside of your head. It takes you outside of your tension. It's a great stress buster, and it just helps explain things. It contextualizes so much of our lives. Like you know, like is it Leanna? No, who was it? Linda. Linda was talking about, you know, being at the grade school reunion. It just puts a nice frame on a situation that will become memorable because you've really paid attention. So a lot of the best humor is observational. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, if we're able to, I want to show you a quick clip of, like, master storyteller George Carlin. I'm sure you've all heard of George Carlin. He was going strong. He was going strong. When did he die? His early 70s, I think. But he was going strong right until the end. And the clip I'm going to show is everyday observations. And we've all had them. But when you get to Carolyn's level, even though we've all probably experienced this, listen to the laughter in the crowd, because he has earned it to talk about these things that we've all experienced, that we might not have ever articulated in front of a crowd. So yeah, really, really sharp observations there about things that we all have experienced. The next slide, if we can get that. Where are we? Thanks, Maria. Okay. Do not be afraid. Don't be afraid to be playful. Know your audience, whether it's your family or your friends or to a paying crowd. Fear holds us back so much in life. We always think, oh, what are people going to think if I do this or that? And then, and I'm speaking about myself too, you know, we can be almost paralyzed, just like it stops us, you know, because, you know, is this a dignified thing to do? I think dignity is highly overrated. You know, you want to extend dignity to others, but when it comes to ourselves, like was said earlier, Carmen, we need to be able to laugh at ourselves, because when we're at ease, we make other people at ease. We give each other permission to be themselves and to relax and to play. And you know, I'm really interested to, you know, with the teachers in the workshop today. Your children are your audience, and they teach you. They teach you how to relax. And like you're saying, they come up with all kinds of stuff that you just wonder, wow, like that's really clever, or that's really funny. And they help you loosen up too. Same with pets. Pets are wonderful, wonderful companions that can really feed our comedy minds and help us relax. So yeah, I just want to ask you guys, what holds you back from, say, cracking a joke, or you know, like if you're writing, if you are a writer, what holds you back from expressing what you really want to express? So we can just go back to the gallery view. If anyone wants to share.
That somebody might get offended by what I'm saying or writing.
Yep. Censorship. I mean, comedy today, a professional stand-up comedy, you're really, really treading a fine line. And you've got to be very careful with what you say today, because we want to be mindful and considerate of each other and respectful of each other. You don't want to venture into anything harmful, or you know, like comedians are being sued for their material, you know.
But don't you think it's gone a bit too far?
Well, that's where the individual really has to know themselves. And it comes from maturity too. When you're younger, you want to go out there, you want to offend as many people as possible, because you want to put your stamp on things. You don't want any censorship, which I think comedy runs the risk of being censored too closely these days. It's one of the last forms of expression where we can be a little freer to point out our foibles and to point out our imperfections and to poke holes in arguments in a way that is thoughtful at the same time. But for the individual, if you are a performer, if you are a writer, and you want to reach a certain audience, a broad audience, or a niche audience, or even your family and friends, you have to have that internal thermostat that will, you know, gauge the temperature and to keep it at a nice, you know, 70 degrees or whatever you like in your house. Me, it's like 65, but you want to keep
Celsius?
Celsius. No, it's Celsius. Yeah, no,
That's
it's
that's a joke. That's my attempt at a
Celsius.
joke.
I'm baking. I'm just dying here. Yeah. So
But I find that that thermometer seems to be changing very quickly to the point where we don't know anymore. If we say one word, it might offend some people when, of course, it's the furthest thing from our mind, but we don't know that that's an offensive word because that's just come into the, into the conversation or whatever, Like I have this conversation with my daughter all the time. She said, well, Mom, you can't say that anymore. But I said, it doesn't mean anything bad. Why, why is it bad for me to say it? And then she'll go on to, well, you can't pretend to be something that you're not. You can't dress up as a, this, and you can't do that. And I'm going, whoa, it's really, really difficult. Like kids even for Halloween, they can't dress up as Indians,
Well, again, it does come down to individual responsibility, I'd say, and sensitivity towards others and towards any oppressed group. It's okay. It's totally okay to make fun of yourself, your own culture, your own sphere.
No,
but
I understand. But that I understand. But I think it goes beyond that in the sense that I don't even know, like the movements that are on right now. That the things that are happening now, and who is sensitive about what. That's what I mean. So that.
But that comes with education. So I would recommend reading as widely as you can, viewing things as widely as you can, and I'm not going to censor anybody. I'm not going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do, but I would suggest that you read as widely as you can, and especially when it comes to something like truth and reconciliation, don't touch that. That's non-negotiable. Some of the best humorists are Indigenous humorists. Oh man, any repressed or persecuted ethnic groups, some of those groups are the funniest people. Jewish people, Indigenous people, marginalized women, like marginalized, trans, gay. From adversity can come the sharpest humor and the most warm humor too. So some of the biggest comedians have gotten into trouble. Louis C.K. There was a guy who had it all and was called to task with Me Too, and now makes it a point to go, like he's booking his own shows, he's back on the road and everything, but he makes it a point of addressing these allegations when they're not only allegations, it's true. He addresses what has happened in his life and is back making lots of money. So
I think what you said is very important, to know yourself.
Oh yeah.
To know, to be at peace with yourself and how you feel. Because if you're not, then you're really in a very dangerous position if you step on stage.
Exactly, because then you're going to lash out at others. So when I was a younger comic, I was like a young, angry comic, and I was strutting my stuff, and I was, saying things that were provocative or whatever. And there's a place for that, because I like to be challenged when I go to see comedy. I like I said, I have a wide range of tastes. I want to be challenged. But if you're going to tell these jokes, they better be original. Number one, original, because there's a lot of theft out there, and they've got to be relevant and just witty and really sharp.
And
but that's stand-up comedy. So that's another genre of humor. So humor is very, very wide. You get humor in literature, as some of our attendants today are in producing solo shows where you're drawing upon anecdote, you're drawing upon your family situation or friends or your observations, and it becomes much, much richer. So it's not about attack. It's not about, going for the kill, I killed, it's not about that. it's about creating an environment where people can relax and can see themselves in your story. And that is the most memorable work, I think, as far as humor is concerned. Let's see. Okay, let's move on. I've got a couple more, and then I guess we got to wrap this up. What's the next thing? Okay, so here you go. So again, back to humor as relationship builder. Pick a topic to riff on. This is homework for you. Here's some homework for you. Getting older is fun. A lot of people would say the opposite. I love it, you know, like I let my hair go gray in my 40s. I went gray really early. I used to get the seniors discounts, like at 42. Are you a senior? Sure. I look like one. Why not? So what are the good things about getting older? You know, I love people, you know, they look at you and they think, some people might think, oh, they're, you know, that old person's kind of feeble. And I will really take advantage of that, you know, for my own amusement. So there's a topic, getting older is fun. The holidays with my family, they can be fraught with tension, but some of the best Christmas movies or holiday movies are all about family coming together. And for anyone who's in the States right now, happy Thanksgiving. You know, our family can be the biggest source of angst for us, but they're also like they can be the biggest source of humor and joy. And we just have to, again, just shift our perspective. Instead of the negative, just turn it around. It's that lens of humor and brightness and what can I bring to the situation that will lighten everybody up? And then, of course, childhood friends. Oh, childhood friends. You know, I think about Stephen King and some of his writing and looking back at it, you know, him looking back at his childhood friends. That's another kind of safe, good starter. It's a good starter for writing. And you can maybe write about, you know, the memories of your childhood friends and how do they affect you today when you look back, you know, like who was that child? Who was I? Why did I pick that friend? And what did we do together that I'd really like to do again, perhaps, as I'm, you know, a little later in my life, the fun times, you know? So what warm memories or observations come to your mind? So there's some homework for you. And just thinking that way. And then you can either write it down or the oral tradition, you just tell anecdotes, you tell the stories. You tell the stories of childhood friends or you know, these other topics or any topic that you want. So riffing is you have an idea and then you're just building on it, right? And that's what we do in writers' rooms for television. Writers' rooms, I've been in a few, not too many, but I've been in a few where they'll gather writers and we break down story. So we're kind of building a story together, much like we did in that exercise. We're adding, you know, where you're adding a bit and then we're getting the basics of a plot and story down, and then the story, the showrunner would assign that story to a specific writer, and they'd go away and work on it themselves and put their own spin on it. Next slide, please. Yeah, humor is a way of life, and you got to practice it, right? I would say you watch a funny show, TV show, like watch your favorite comedians, watch your favorite TV shows, videos. It's a way of life. And like I said, it's a muscle that you have to exercise because there's just so much gloom and doom in the world today. You owe it to yourself, and you owe it to your family, your friends, your social circle, everybody, to your neighbors. Just humor will relax you. It's okay to laugh. And, you know, the news cycle these days, they just want us glued into gloom and doom. Enough. Like we don't have to be glued in 24/7 to the strife of the world. You know, like please. As a writer and a performer now, when I go out to see other plays or if I'm reading novels or whatever, like I'm at a point where I feel like it's my duty to be humorous. That's just me. But I really think it's a gift to everybody that I, or that other people take the time to share a laugh, to be warm. Like not everything's hilarious, right? But it's just extending that warmth and seeing the goodness in your situation, in your families, and in yourself. Again, it starts with yourself. Yeah. And having that sense of humor and being able to laugh at yourself. Okay, and next slide. And find humor in situations that frustrate you. There you go. So one of my favorite sitcoms that I've been studying that I go over and over again is Seinfeld. And I don't know how many of you like Seinfeld, but it's one of the top US sitcoms ever made. And if we're able to show that last clip, this is an everyday situation, a very, very simple situation that in the hands of Larry David, Jerry Seinfeld become, and the writers, of course, and the actors, it becomes hysterical. So if you haven't seen the Chinese restaurant episode, they're just waiting. They're just waiting for a table. And that's the show. Like it's amazing to me how the the performers and the writers were able to take this situation and expand on it and make it so funny, because it's everything we can relate to. We've all waited, for service, so we can move on from that slide and just go to the end here. All right, so that's it. That's it. There's my the reviews are in. That's me just riffing on, making fun of myself here. Anyway, I want to thank you all so much for attending the workshop. We're just like just scratching the surface here. I mean, it's really hard in an hour and a half to really, get working together, but I think we've made a start. I think we've all kind of come together and shared some really great stories and observations with each other. I encourage everybody to pursue what you're pursuing. And some of you are like looking to turn pro, or looking to looking to turn pro and looking to make more of a living at it, or not just a living, but a vocation. So art is a vocation, right? Whether we get paid for it or we don't, it's still a vocation. We're lucky if we're able to get paid for it, and to be an artist in this day and age is really, 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 really difficult. In Toronto, Artscape, a big housing provider in Toronto, that's gone into receivership, but that's another story. So keep practicing. That's my recommendation, and do not let fear stop you. It's the hardest thing in the world sometimes to get out of our own way, but attending workshops like this and passing your ideas off to others and getting feedback makes it become real. Because when we work in isolation and we're writing and we're coming up with stuff, that's the hard work, right? But we got to get it out there. Whether that's just, sitting around with your friends, you want to spritz with your friends a bit more and be more relaxed. Whether, you have the holiday gathering coming up. In that situation, some of the best, you can just sit back and just enjoy. And try not to be annoyed by your family. But if they annoy you, again, just kind of turn it around and try to find the humor in it. And you bringing your humor into situations will diffuse any tension. And it's a way to divert situations that might, get tense or get angry, like humor, some of the best humor, like the flip side is anger. So use your anger and turn it into humor. into what we can all relate to and laugh and to feel that release. What time is it? Okay, why don't I just open this up to questions here?
Yeah.
Because I can go on and on. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very, very interesting. Very.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn.
If you have any questions, Carolyn will take questions.
Yeah, I have a quick question, actually. I'm just wondering, when we were talking about humor, and so the play that I'm working on right now is about a drag queen, and I'm not a drag queen. I'm female assigned at birth. So I'm just wondering about writing from someone else's point of view. Where you stand on that, like making jokes and.
Definitely, you've got to talk to somebody in the community.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I thought about doing like a market research.
like actually go to performances if you can. Like a big thing now is sensitivity readers. So if you can introduce, like, are your friends drag queens?
I mean, I know some.
Yeah, how well do you know them?
No, not very well.
Okay, well, I would recommend that you make friends, or certainly connect with one or two drag queens and get their stories, and maybe, just maybe, ask if they want to collaborate.
Well, I was thinking of actually asking a real queen to be the performer in the play.
Okay, right there. So that's a collaboration.
Yeah,
and then that person can look at what you've written and do their pass for the authenticity. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
And thanks so much for this workshop.
Oh, you're welcome.
Darlene?
Yeah, a quick comment, if I may. I wrote a story called Appropriation, and the comment had been made that if you're writing what you know, or you're writing from your own background, that you might be on safer territory. Appropriation was a story that grew out of my Italian background, but what the character in the story was appropriating was Indian garb by way of Dale Dickblocker. She knew, the narrator knew that the Dale, who was white in the Muskoka region, was attracted to her physically because of her Italian shape, but the Italianness wasn't enough Dickblocker. So long story short, to deter him, she dresses up like an Indian and appropriates the Indian garb. Now, when I wrote the story, I knew I was on very dangerous territory, and I actually had a sensitivity reader in the Indigenous community read it, and she loved the story, and it actually ultimately was shortlisted for a literary award. But I was charting unknown territory here, and I knew I was on sensitive ground. In fact, I read a book called Appropriation, about crossing boundaries and so on. I thought, write the damn thing and worry about the sensitivity issues afterward. It's actually a very funny story.
Yeah, and it sounds, yeah.
It's a coming of age story, but there's also an old expression, crazy knows no boundaries. And I think, in a way, if you watch a lot of humor, George Carlin and so on, it really crosses the boundaries between what is sane and what is really insane and really out there. And you can get away with a lot if you throw away your fear and you do outrageous things in outrageous contexts. I could go on, but I'm going to shut up. I think it's really important not to edit ourselves into silence, or to sensitivity ourselves into silence. Write the thing first, or try it on a safe audience. And yeah, I got the sensitivity reader. I got her quote. I'm going to go on and publish the story elsewhere as part of a collection. But we are dealing with a very, very careful publishing community I guess for good reason. Universities are censoring themselves into silence. But you know, the climate will change. I mean, if you look at that Kazakhstan guy, remember 20 years ago?
Dr. Cohen.
So outrageous. I mean, if you watch that now, you're just horrified at some of the comments that he makes, quite hilariously, or Archie Bunker, any of that. I mean, anyway, enough said. I just throw that out there.
Well, it sounds like what you wrote was satire.
I thought it was a coming of age story that it was, you know, quite humorous. Maybe it was satire.
Yeah,
I actually, you know, I think it probably was, because it goes into the four classes of people on the island. Two of them are Italian. There's the new Italian, there's the old Italian, there's the white locals, and there are the cottagers. And yeah, I think I was satire, you know, doing satire of all of them. But there's a very serious component to the story as well.
Yeah.
But definitely the relationship between the Dale character and the female, a teenage protagonist, that's totally humorous.
Thanks,
Leanne?
Darlene. Yeah.
Will you be having any more workshops? Because I feel like, oh, I could just listen to, I could just have creative conversations about comedy for like a day straight. Do you ever have workshops, like a weekend workshop, or?
I will probably start thinking about it in 2024. Right now, I'm a little slammed. But no, whatever you can tap into. St. Albert, my family's in Edmonton, so whatever's in the community as well, like you can tap into it there as well. But sometimes it's good to talk to professionals, you know, because they're, you know. But yeah, we can put a link in the chat from my website. You can, if anything comes up, you can just check me out there. Leanna, thank you.
Yeah, as a performer and someone who's just starting out in stand-up comedy, I've noticed one thing I really want to be working on the next little while is timing and pacing, because I think there's always that fear that if the crowd is quiet, it's because you've said something that you thought was funny and that isn't. Whereas sometimes you need those pauses for people to just, sometimes people are just listening. And so that's sort of a distinction that I'm trying to learn to make, so that I don't just rush through my sets. My sets are always a lot faster than I think they are in my head, because time seems to move, I think, so much more slowly when you're on stage. And I know that the scene has changed a lot and is changing a lot. And I know there's the Comedy Nest, but I was wondering if there were any other local to Montreal or even national scenes that you would recommend that we check out.
Hugely. So earlier we were talking about the room that I co-produce in Toronto called Hoot Hoot. That is comedy, like comedians going and finding a space and asking the club owner or the restaurant owner, hey, would you like a show here? Sometimes it's as easy as starting your own room. And that's big in the arts today, is self-producing, right? Because if we wait, we're not going to be practicing. We're not going to have our work out there. So like right there, you can go and start your own room, for one thing. I would, in Montreal, I would just Google Montreal, like one-nighters, like comedy one-nighter rooms. Toronto, there's tons of them. The Montreal scene, I'm not sure what it's like anymore, but yeah, like get on. I would caution you getting on too much Facebook, you know, like there's just, the social media can suck the life out of you. But that's another way that comedians have made a ton of money, is on social. You have to be a certain age, but blah, blah, blah. So start your own room. Start hanging out at comedy clubs. Mark Breslin at Yuck Yucks, the advice he gave me was, if you really are serious, you got to eat, sleep, and breathe comedy. Like that is your life, right? So yeah, just start going to the Comedy Nest. Is Comedy Works still around? in Montreal? I don't know. There's Yuck Yucks, I know. Just for Laughs. Oh my God, like Just for Laughs. Just definitely start checking out Just for Laughs, because they do programming year round. And yeah, like start your own room.
All right, thanks.
Other questions?
I just want to thank Acenti Magazine and Licia. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to see everybody. I might have seen some of you during our writers' sessions during the pandemic, but it's really good to be here, and it's good to have these conversations and to encourage each other. And I look forward to seeing your work one way or another. Yep.
Thank you, Carolyn. So if there are no other questions, I'll close. So thank you so much, Carolyn, for making us laugh, for an inspiring workshop. And thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to invite you to join us for Workshop 9, which will be on Saturday, December 9th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The workshop, We Are Here, Coming Together Despite Our Differences, will be led by Celeste Turner. Please check out the Acenti site for past and future workshops. You can go to acenti.ca/workshops. So again, thank you all for being here today. Acenti's Workshops to Express Creativity, Engaging Canadian Seniors is made possible through the financial support of Employment and Social Development Canada as part of the New Horizons Seniors Program. I hope you all have a good rest of the day and enjoy the weekend, and I look forward to seeing you soon again.